The most recent patch for The Witcher 3 has added 2 brand new secret swords to the game, and they are actually really good and potentially the best steel sword in the game. And it's all thanks to our Lord and Savior.
Top-notch swords.
Alright, so in patch 4.01, it didn't really do a heap of actual, bug fixes, etc. Mostly like performance stuff. I have noticed a couple of little improvements to my PC performance, but a hidden change in this patch is that the armorer in Novigrad that previously, before the next gen update, used to say top-notch swords, didn't actually sell any swords, so it was kind of a little bit of a meme. They actually changed him to just like say welcome, welcome, but they've changed it back and actually added 2 brand new swords to his inventory, and they're both Witcher swords. Now, these are just standard kind of Witcher swords, very similar to the very first swords you get at the start of the game. But something that I've found with these swords is that whenever you talk to him, the actual level of the swords will scale with your actual level. So this may not seem super poignant, but say, if you're level 20 and you talk to him, the swords will be level 20, or say level 50, level 50. But in New Game Plus, if you are, say, I don't know, level 80 and you talk to him, the swords will have their damage scaled to be level 80. Now, an interesting thing about New Game Plus and playing The Witcher past that, level 55-ish mark is that all of your gear and swords, etc., will stay around that level because there isn't gear that's above that level that scales that highly. They have added some changes to that with the next gen update, and Arendite obviously does, but the interesting thing here is there was never a steel sword option, and I think that this steel sword is actually the potential variant here that you could use. The level of the swords will actually refresh, just like, say, if you're standing next to him and you just, I don't know, happen to randomly level up, who knows how that could happen, and then you talk to him again, the sword's level will actually increase. It's kind of interesting, and you could essentially, with every New Game Plus build, or say, when you have leveled up or gone into a New Game Plus, you can just eventually go and buy these weapons from him. We'll talk about the steel sword first. I think that's the most interesting out of these. So the steel sword itself will only give you a critical hit damage bonus of 10% and a critical hit chance bonus of 10%. And with both of these weapons, when you buy them, they don't have any runes on them, by the way, so you'll have to go to like the rune rat vendor or something and add the rune slots onto them so you can, put runes into the gear. Now, you could honestly put anything into it, whether it be attack power or just any of the rune rat sets that you could put onto whatever your build may be. And so I bought this sword, and comparing it with this bear steel sword at level 80, the damage difference is like, it says it's, 300 just like on the raw damage numbers, but the actual damage increase when fighting human enemies is significantly increased. Now, you do lose all the extra bonuses from having the set bonuses, right? So using the bear set as an example, the adrenaline point gain, a 75% crit damage, 5% crit chance, dismemberment, and bonus experience. And obviously, if you are using some sort of a build that incorporates the 6 out of 6 Witcher gear, you will lose that as well. But the build that I'm using here to play around with these swords is just like a random light armor bear set build that I was like screwing around with Euphoria. So I'm testing it without any of the Euphoria buffs, but it's like a heavily focused attack power build, so the damage numbers would be pretty good anyway, even without any. And you can clearly see in the footage, like the bear sword is significantly less than the amount of damage that the Witcher steel sword does, just in general fights. Like, you can kind of see the damage numbers as they pop up, but just the general feel of fighting enemies, that steel sword does heaps more damage. So realistically here, you could go and buy this sword at, I've bought it at level 80, but if you're in New Game Plus and you've leveled up to, whatever level that may be, you could essentially go and buy this sword at level 100, and the damage numbers would be exponentially more, and you'll get more value out of that raw damage number than the passive bonuses that you're losing from changing your steel sword. In any build that uses Arendite anyway, you'll lose that 6 out of 6 Witcher gear bonus, so you get a lot of value from just having a sword that does that raw damage potential. And even looking at the stats of Geralt with, the one steel sword versus the other, the actual just numbers of the damage that you get from just attack damage is so much more from this random Witcher sword that you get from Top Notch Swords guy. He totally wasn't lying. Like, this is actually a top-notch sword. I would like some better passives rather than just the crit hit damage, but these swords are pretty lit. Let's be honest. So moving on to the silver sword now. So the Witcher silver sword gives you a 15% sign intensity, which isn't much in any regards, and does, I guess, kind of fit within some sort of a sign focus build. Doesn't fit within anything else, or this attack power build that we're using to test with this footage. But the thing here is, like, it does do the same kind of benefits as the steel sword. It gives you just a massive amount of raw damage numbers that may outweigh Arendite, and it's hard to see exactly because, as I mentioned in this footage, I've artificially leveled myself up to level 80, so I haven't been using Arendite for those like 30 levels, right, that I was leveling, because when you kill an enemy with Arendite, you will permanently increase that weapon's damage. So say if you were using it for those 30 levels and increasing that damage over time, would that damage equal be about the same? If anyone is like has a level 100 character that has been using Arendite since level 50 and wants to test with the silver sword, please let me know in the comments down below, because I really would be interested to see what those damage numbers work out to be. So because I was playing around with it, now it does seem like in this artificially leveled build that I am using, the silver sword does do more damage because of those raw damage numbers, right? That does make sense because of what it is, but Arendite is still viable and pretty strong in this artificially leveled build because of the passives that Arendite has. So we already touched on one of them, but the other, each blow generates charges which increase sword damage by 10%. So then you get all those charges, and then eventually you will like use that fully charged sword to always do crit damage. So you get a lot of value out of just Arendite even from that. So I think that, say at level 100, if you had been using Arendite the whole way, I do think Arendite would still outperform this sword because of those passives, regardless of what kind of runes you put on the silver sword, and that even if the raw damage numbers might be a little bit higher. I did jump on another save file that hasn't been artificially leveled that is about like level 54, and I checked with this sword and just to like compare just the natural damage, because I have been using Arendite more or less with this kind of build that I was using. The damage numbers here were more or less exactly the same, with Arendite having slightly more damage, like a +4 compared to just like the standard silver sword. So I think Arendite would outperform this sword just in general as you were leveling up because of all the bonuses you get from Arendite. I think it is still like the king of New Game Plus and silver swords in general, but the silver sword is still pretty strong and requires less effort to actually get that damage numbers really high, right? You just have to buy it from him, whereas Arendite, you have to grind those damage numbers and use that sword as you're leveling up through New Game Plus and even Blood and Wine if you pick up the sword a little bit earlier. But I guess that's the difference here, is that with Arendite, you have to use it to get that damage increase, whereas this silver sword, if you're using some other build and weren't using Arendite, you're level 100, really feel like using something else, you could just go and grab this sword from this guy and get the benefits from the just natural damage numbers that it's going to do. So there is beneficial there, and I think it is a really good sword regardless. Both of these swords I think are really good, and just funny little additions to the game. I love these little changes that they do with these patches that they don't talk about. I think now if I was starting a New Game Plus build or going into New Game Plus, I would be picking up the Witcher Steel Sword probably once I'm at a pretty high level. I wouldn't go pick it up as soon as you hit New Game Plus, because then you're going to buy that sword at that level, right? So the higher level you are, the higher the damage numbers, and you get that benefits from picking that up. Maybe around like the 80 level range would be a really good spot, or even 70 or something like that, so you get as much damage potential for that New Game Plus when you're using that weapon. And then Arendite is still probably the king of silver swords, unless you weren't using it and leveling it together, then you could probably go buy that silver sword and it'd still be pretty good. Let me know what you guys think about these swords, and patch 4.01 as well. Is your performance better or worse? I think mine is a little bit better. I've been tinkering with some of the ray tracing stuff, and I definitely think it is better on PC, but I haven't tested it too much on console other than booting it up and being like, yep, game works. But otherwise, really interested to know what you guys think. Thank you for watching this video till the end. Thank you to our members for supporting the channel. My name is Norza, and I hope you have a great day.